Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Einstein's Eyes, our YouTube channel. I'm your co-host, Carl Rosen. I'm an oculoplastic surgeon, also fellowship trained in neuro-ophthalmology at Allegheny General in Pittsburgh with Jack Kennerdell. I am here with my co-host, my friend, and former co-resident from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, Jon Ditkoff. Jon.
Hello, all you crazy people out there. So yeah, I'm in northern New Jersey. I've been here for 30 years. Carl and I trained at Albert Einstein together, hence Einstein's Eyes. I'm a cornea specialist that does general ophthalmology in northern New Jersey, only a few miles out of Manhattan.
Right. Thanks, Jon. So before I get started, I did want to mention that I have sad news that Jimmy Carter passed away today at 100.
Amazing.
Yeah, really, really sad. But moving on to our topic, we're going to dive into something that confuses parents about their kids, and it even confuses some physicians. It's called pseudo-esotropia, and pseudo sort of gives it away. It's not real. It's like orbital pseudotumor. It's not really a tumor. So pseudo-esotropia, and I do want to show our audience what an esotropia looks like. It's where the eyes are crossed in. And that's known as a strabismus. Now, a strabismus is a fancy term in ophthalmology that just signals a misalignment of your eyes. It could be up and down or side to side. And let's show you that. Here's the image that I wanted to show you to support what I was just mentioning about different types of strabismus. And an esotropia is where the eye is crossed in. An exotropia is where the eye is crossed out. A hypotropia is where the eye is down, and a hypertropia is where the eye is up. So that gives you some background. As I was mentioning, esotropia is a crossed eye versus pseudo-esotropia. And that's an eye that looks crossed, but really isn't. And there's just some fundamental reasons which should allay most fears of parents. And Jon, why don't you run with this?
Yeah, so it's a great topic. And I was telling Carl a very interesting story. I was at a Christmas party the other day, speaking to a young, very attractive woman who was explaining to me that for years, friends of hers, family, like they're like in pictures and in person, they say your eye looks crossed. What's up with that? You should go get that checked. Now, interestingly, with her, she'd actually been to my office a year ago. So I know she doesn't have crossed eyes. She doesn't have double vision. She has normal vision in both eyes. I know she doesn't have crossed eyes. I mean, there's a lot of ways we know that. So right there at the party, I showed her and I showed her family that were watching how I knew she wasn't really had crossed eyes. She had differently shaped eyelids. And that's a big difference. There's your eyeball and there's your eyelid. So let's look at this picture that Carl has. There's some key things here. If you look at the bottom picture of this child, the left eye in the picture looks crossed. It's in and not straight. So there's two reasons I think that. One is it looks like that. We all would agree with that. But look very carefully at the little white reflex on the eye. We call that the Hirschberg reflex. Carl is pointing to it right now with the pointing. So if you look at that reflex, you see how it's outside towards the iris, the colored part of the eye. So that means that the eye is truly not aligned, the eyeball itself. And that's a way to discount the fact that the skin might not be symmetric. Now, let's look at the upper picture. You look at this child quickly, it really looks like their right eye is in because their eyelid, the skin is very prominent. We call that the epicanthal fold. So many babies have very prominent epicanthal folds. And actually, some adults have prominent epicanthal folds, and especially Asian people or people that have Asian background. So they might have a little more skin in this area. And if they have skin, it makes it look like the eye might be slightly crossed. And how would someone think that cosmetically, like this young, attractive woman? In her case, one eyelid had slightly more skin than the other eyelid. So when people looked at her, it always looked like her eye was slightly in compared to the other one. But the key thing in this picture, and I showed her right at the party, is this. If you shine a light which is again the Hirschberg test, look where that light is on the pupil in both eyes. It's dead center. So I know the eyeball itself is dead center as this baby's looking at us. What makes it look like it's crossed is the prominent skin. And that's why we call it pseudo-esotropia. It's fake. So, there's a lot of things like that in life. You can have, Carl's an oculoplastic specialist. I've had people come into my office thinking that one eyelid was actually droopy. Sometimes what we find out is it's actually the other eyelid having lid retraction. So it's all comparative to the other eye. So you always have to look at both eyes. But in this setting, and this is what we're talking about today, it's all about that light reflex. So if you have a child at home and you're worried that their eyes crossed, you should be able to shine a light right on them. They should look right at you, and immediately you should be able to see that there's a little white dot in both of their pupils. And if you don't see that white dot, then it could be a concern. And if you're concerned, either way, get an eye doctor to look. But for sure, if the light is not in the center, make sure you get an opinion.
So the Hirschberg test, or the corneal light reflex, will tell you if the kid is focusing with both eyes appropriately, and both eyes are being used to gather visual information, which will appropriately stimulate, we call the occipital cortex, so that they have normal vision.
Well, you definitely know they're aligned. You really don't know if they're processing. That's why you check their vision and things like that. But
Right.
So if you show, Carl, if you show that first picture again, the first one where that had true deviations, that had light reflexes on it. Do you have that handy? So in this one, you can see every time the eye is not aligned, the light reflex is not in the pupil. So you look at the brown eyes that say esotropia on the top, that light reflex is in the iris. It's in the brown part. And here, it's again in the blue part. And here, it's a little bit in the blue part. And here, it's a little in the brown part. If someone's aligned, it should be dead. It should be basically close to the center of the pupil. So right in the dark center, you get a light reflex.
You have a true esotropia or a true strabismus or eye misalignment, then the visual system won't appropriately develop, and you can get something called amblyopia or a lazy eye, and that needs to be taken care of quickly.
We have a video on lazy eye. You guys should watch that.
Right. We have a video on lazy eye or amblyopia. They're both the same. They both have the same meaning.
Yeah.
So fantastic stuff, John. Yeah, pseudo-esotropia. And, some folks think that esotropia goes away. It doesn't. Pseudo-esotropia may, because the facial features may mature, and that may cause the pseudo-esotropia to look more natural and less like pseudo-esotropia. But real esotropia doesn't go away. You got to get that figured out either with glasses, patching, or even surgery, and it won't resolve on its own. But so
one thing I would add about the pseudo-esotropia. So if it's a child, just like Carl said, most likely as we grow, the epicanthal fold tends to get smaller and smaller. But this person I was looking at, who's over 20 years of age, I told her if she was really bothered cosmetically by this, you could do, I don't know if you've done this, Carl, but I've read about epicanthoplasty. So there are doctors that will remove a little bit of that skin on one side to make it symmetric. Do you do that procedure?
Yeah, so I've done it. I've done it earlier. It does get tricky, and sometimes you can see a scar. It's called a Y to V, or there's a Z plasty that you can do. It's you really have to discuss the expectations, but it can be done. It can be done. So thanks a million, John. I think this topic was helpful. I think folks are going to get some value out of this. And if you do, please like and subscribe and share.
Yeah, we want to get our subscriptions up, guys. Help us.
Yeah, please help us. But we really appreciate that you're here, and we really like doing this. So we will see you on the next one. Good to see you, John.